So I saw this video from the drinker and I wanted to answer, his questions that he had on this film because I had a lot myself, but my main questions were why was this film even really made and why is it 3 hours long? But he had a couple of questions and I felt it would only be right for someone to just answer these questions, and I figured I think I could give my 2 cents onto what those answers possibly could be, as wrong as they may be. But, let's just see what he has to say.
Watching Wakanda Forever the other day, I found myself leaving the theatre with a number of questions. Like, oh my god, why did I just waste 3 hours of my life on that fucking disaster when I could have been doing something far more productive, like drinking toilet duck? But I also had a few questions about the plots, so I decided to just list them here. I don't really expect an answer to any of these questions, but it's just little things that people might find it interesting to contemplate. Such as, why do the Wakandans talk to each other in English when they have their own distinct language and clearly have nothing but contempt for outside cultures, especially English-speaking ones?
Of course, they would use what? Ebonics? They could just use that form of English. It's like any other civilization that they show, they always end up speaking in English, or they do have their native tongue and they have subtitles. I guess Wakandans are just too slick and too smooth with their dialogue to where they don't even need to use their language. They're just like, now we speak in the English, okay? Because that's what you think Afrikaans sound like. So that's what we talk like. I have the thought that they technically are alien, like they may be human, and look like us, but they are in fact alien. So that's just the way that they're able to make themselves look approachable to humankind, as you would say. But I don't know. I guess that's the only logical thing I could think of. So they are speaking in Wakandan. It's just, we just hear it in English because they have to talk in English.
Why do they still use the magical bullshit shield to make their city invisible when everyone knows it exists because they literally told the world about it in the previous movie?
Well, obviously, they don't want people just visiting. You can't just go visit Wakanda. It would be the hottest tourist attraction. It'd be better than... it's like going to Themyscira and just being like, we're going to go visit Themyscira. Like, some places I just guess you just can't visit. And Wakanda just so happens to want to play that card where they're like, no. You can't come here and, excuse me, I feel like it's like going to a tribe in Africa or something, literally, where it's just, they don't want our modernized culture. They're just, no, we don't need your technology and we don't need your whatever bullshittery that you're bringing over. I don't know why they make it such a point to not want people to find them when they are trying to be part of the United Nations and shit. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, why wouldn't you let anyone go to your with New Asgard, they made it a damn tourist attraction and they had the Infinity Gauntlet ice cream spot. Why would you, it's just so interesting how they want to play the whole card, I guess, of we do not want outside people, the whole colonization thing. We don't want that to happen in Wakanda. So it's kind of unfair and it's kind of just really funny at the same time for them to just take the stance that they take,
Why do they use magical techno drums to disable the magical bullshit shield in order to pass through it, when a fucking button would be simpler, easier, more efficient, and more reliable? Like, if the pilot got the tune on those drums even slightly wrong, would the entire royal family crash into the shield and die?
Obviously, that's just what the men are good for. All the men in Wakanda don't really have any other duty besides just being in the background or like having big ass rings on their lips. But obviously, the men grew up with rhythm and with beats to the point where that is their only job is to hit these drums to make sure that this invisible shield opens up so that they can fly through. Because if they didn't, everyone in fact would probably die and they'd crash and burn. But that is their one job. So if they failed at that one job, their whole family would probably be murdered or excommunicated or some bullshit. Even though the queen and everyone is dead, they'd just be like, all right, next in line. Because they probably got some like random, other families or other members of the royal family that wouldn't be on that ship. I'm assuming unless everybody is on that ship, then I guess Wakanda is just fucked.
Why were none of the Avengers called upon to help T'Challa when he was sick and dying, and why were none of them present at his funeral?
As far as the funeral, man, I don't know. I guess all of them were busy. They all had their own Disney Plus shows to go to. They all had all their own content to create, so they couldn't really, they didn't really have time to set aside for Black Panther's funeral. They're like, you know what? We're all busy doing our own stuff and pretty much losing to our own female counterparts. So we're gonna kind of, my bad, but we're in spirit, bro. Wakanda forever.
Why didn't Queen Ramonda have to fight to be ruler of Wakanda like all of her predecessors did? Did everyone just accept her as the new queen? If so, why? We know the ritual still takes place because we get to see it at the end of the movie, so why was she never required to take part in it?
And yeah, it is true, the fact that she does become like queen, but then the princess, like she's like the princess, and it's like, well, she also has status because she's the princess, but the queen is just like, nah, I'm the queen because the king died. And I don't really care about that whole aspect. I feel like it's kind of like, all right, whatever, it's the king and queen of Wakanda. But that's why I say, if they did die on that ship, they have to have cousins and uncles and all that shit, I would assume, to help take the throne, because if they didn't, Wakanda would be fucked and it would fail. But again, that's why it's so funny, because maybe that's why they're like, look, we don't want anyone coming in here because we already have a small enough civilization as it is. So one wrong move and like this whole bitch could crumble. It's like, I was gonna say, it's like Themyscira, where Themyscira doesn't come to the United Nations and be like, we are this island of women. It's just where they're at. And Wonder Woman just leaves, Diana leaves, and it is what it is. But it's just like the Themysciras, until Ares shows up on your doorstep, until Namor shows up on your shores. I guess the battle has came to you, and now all of a sudden it's your problem. You kind of need everybody's help, but at the same time you don't want to give your help. So it is just very interesting. Yeah, the whole, I don't really care about how she became queen, but it is interesting how Wakanda like works as of some type of interesting diplomatic civilization. I don't know if it is or isn't. Is it a hierarchy? Do they also have a patriarchy technically because there's a king and queen? I mean, I don't understand how you're fighting the patriarchy with twice as much patriarchy, but whatever.
How exactly are the Dora Milaje able to deflect automatic gunfire using just their spears? Even Deadpool couldn't do that shit.
Girl boss power, they have been taught with shields since they were born, probably. So with spears since they were born, so they just are that fast to deflect the bullets. But I mean, it's still shit. It's still like, what? I guess, like, if you had, like, and then what if those soldiers, I had the funny thought in that scene, what if the soldiers were black? Like, over here, people are saying, like, all these, like, white soldiers and shit. Like, literally, what if they were, like, black soldiers? Would that make a difference if they're just killing black soldiers and deflecting bullets of black soldiers? I don't understand but yeah, why do they deflect bullets? Like, really, come on now. Like, when they're in the UN, I had the funny thought, because remember, I do think of them as alien. What if they just all of a sudden got, like, sniped? If they're just like, we are not going to help with you guys, and these are the captors that came and tried to kill us, and then the captors like plotted to where they just had like someone just snipe her, because obviously those people were willing to kill to get the vibranium, so why wouldn't they plan an attack to kill her where they could just kill her? And yeah, you're waging a war, but it's like, fuck it, the MCU has, like, the world has been brought to the end of the times worth in worse scenarios. Remember, Shumagorath did come down in Doctor Strange, the multiverse of madness, even though he was only in the movie for like 10 minutes. He technically should have almost destroyed the world, but nah, he was just a slug. So whatever.
How does slapping some nanomachines on the chassis of a 1970s muscle car allow you to remote pilot it?
Yeah, I ain't got anything for that. I didn't even realize the Jamaican Jarvis was driving the car until she said, give me back control of this vehicle. And even then I was like, wait, when did she, and I saw the movie twice, right? So it's like, how did she put I don't understand how she got, I don't know how she made the car be able to drive. It's an old school chassis. It's like, these nano machines are crazy.
Why does Okoye wait until she gets all the way back to Wakanda to report that Shuri's been captured by the fish people? Wouldn't it make more sense to immediately call it in and use the tracking device that Shuri's still wearing to get a fix on her location so you can launch an immediate rescue mission?
And then, yeah, I don't understand the whole part with Okoye. I legitimately thought that she was going to be like a main character and actually have to save Shuri, and go about, actually having to, like, she would be more of a main point in the movie than she was, but she just kind of cried and got, like, she got fired. But my girl makes this great point where we were discussing that whole scene when she has the bald head and, she has to put the ash on to cover up her tattoo on her head. And it's like, that was like a chink in her armor that was cracked, because she's supposed to be this tall, standing general. And like Wonder Woman, who's getting, like, feminized in the modern world, like, she feels self-conscious about herself to the point where she ends up having to fight these people and thinking that she could just take them on by herself, spear against spear. And it's like, girl, you're one-on-one. You're like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. I'm surprised she didn't ask, like, call for help. Like, where was Wakanda? Like, how did they not? Like, when Namor got in through the shores and was talking to the queen and Shuri, it's like they didn't have any backup. No one was there. It's just the queen and a spear. Like, he could have literally killed them there and took Wakanda overnight, but didn't. And yeah, the very next scene is the queen going to the Jamaican Jarvis and asking if she had her bracelet on or her earrings. She could have easily sent Okoye back and been like, you have to get my daughter. Bring my daughter back. Instead of being like, bitch, go into the sidelines for a while until you come back. And then Okoye didn't even go around the queen's back or around Wakanda's back and then save her like righteously and as the hero. Like, it's just like, man, it was so weak, so lame.
How do the blue fish people use toilets underwater? Wouldn't their city have centuries worth of piss and shit floating around everywhere? Why even build underwater cities when there's no weather or dramatic temperature changes that you need to take shelter from, and beds clearly don't work underwater?
Hey man, underwater cities are cool. I don't know, I got nothing.
How are the blue fish people able to regenerate after being apparently killed? Why is this never commented on or explained?
I'm telling you, man, this was marketing, low-key marketing for Avatar 2. Because it's like, let's just go watch the next set of blue people. I'm down.
Why does Ocean Man have wings attached to his feet and pointed ears when neither of these things have anything to do with fish, and none of the other bluefish children born subsequently have these additions?
Well, apparently it makes a good point that he is a mutant and he's supposed to be, I guess, like the first, but even in the comics, they seem more like fins than wings, but they do really make them look like wings. But maybe he is just the first mutant. He's the human hybrid, the firstborn in the water of the blue people eating the herb and stuff. So it's like, we guys, we could just let that one go. He is the villain and that's what he looks like and that's what he's got. But it was funny when Shuri ripped it off because it's like, probably hurt a lot. Probably like getting like a finger ripped off. It's just like, oh, but it looked hilarious.
How exactly does Ocean Man even know about the existence of Wakanda, never mind where it is and how to sneak into it, when it's literally been hidden from the entire world throughout most of its history?
Obviously, Namor just knows the water, so he knows that there's a part of underwater, mass that's underneath, obviously, some civilization that has to be here, because what is all this rock doing here? He lives in the water. Obviously, he would know, like, look at this piece of land right here all of a sudden. But I guess it just took him that long to be like, you know what? I'm just going to go check it out, guys. He waited until this movie. He could have waited like centuries ago, it seems.
How are the water grenades able to shatter vibranium glass but only cause minor injuries to Okoye despite being caught directly in the blast radius?
Hey man, Okoye, like I said, she's a boss. She's supposed to be boss general. So like the mascara, maybe she's just built different.
How exactly are whales able to survive in a freshwater African river?
Well, obviously, these are different whales. These whales are built different.
If the Wakandans wanted to stop the blue fish people from invading their country, why didn't they just divert the river so there was no way for them to get in?
Have you ever tried diverting a river? I'm pretty sure these Wakandans have never done anything to that scale in their life. They probably had like the most chillest life. They're like, yo, nigga, I ain't ever diverting no river. We've had this river for 100 years. We've never diverted it. We're not gonna divert it now.
Why hasn't someone as brilliant and gifted as Riri Williams been recruited by the US government already? How does her Iron Man suit function without an arc reactor? Did she build her own one? If so, how? I thought an arc reactor required extremely rare and valuable materials that the average US college student would not be able to procure.
And yeah, I didn't understand that. I honestly think that they should have made a General Ross cameo where he just shows up and he's like Harrison Ford and he's like, Riri, I'm here to collect you for a project. And then she's like, da-na-na-na, Ironheart. And then she ends up teaming up with Red Hulk or something. That would be cool. I'd watch that just because. But yeah, I don't understand how she wasn't already a thing, and the fact that she has a suit. I don't know. I mean, she was 19. She said she was working on it for years. She started working on it when she was 16. Gosh, again, like I said in my last video, I feel like this girl's brain got blipped, and then when it came back, it was like a quantum realm brain. It was a Kang brain. Now she's got like a super brain. In Ant-Man 3, they're gonna show all these crazy beings, and one of those beings obviously got swapped. They got brain swapped. Fuck if I know, but her suit was so wonky, bulky. It was just funny. It just was very unbelievable. They should have made an Ironheart show first, but I feel like that was a Disney fuck up where they've been doing all these shows and y'all have been doing all these lame shows. Maybe they should have done Ironheart instead of Miss Marvel, and it maybe would have been better it would have been a better lead up to Wakanda Forever, but
Why has no one thought to look for vibranium in other parts of the world before now? Why were Tony and Bruce not recruited to build a vibranium detector years ago?
Yeah, I don't understand that part either, because you would think that Tony Stark would have definitely been like, oh, Wakanda? Okay, we're definitely gonna fucking figure this shit out. But I mean, again, Bruce is like busy being the Hulk and like not being the Hulk, and then like being, they're like busy ruining the Hulk's story, so he ain't got time to just throw in a whole new arc of trying to build some shit for something that no one really needed until now. But I don't know. I'm so disappointed with what they've done to the Hulk. She-Hulk isn't even like, it doesn't even count anymore, because just compared to Hulk is just dead.
Why does Everett Ross take the Wakandans at their word that they didn't attack that research ship when it's clearly something that they're willing and able to do?
Yeah, I mean, Everett Ross, I totally forgot about his character. But it's always cool seeing that guy. I just liked him in Sherlock better. But yeah, I don't really know that whole mosquito scene was pretty funny. It's like, oh wow, look at that robot mosquito. Yeah, I don't know.
If the new magical bullshit herb was made by combining the underwater bullshit herb with T'Challa's DNA, wouldn't that turn Shuri into a mixture of T'Challa and the Bluefish people?
Well, obviously we can't have her turn blue, because it would just be cheesy, be so bad. So they had to just make her just have the black. Like, come on, man, come on, drinker, come on. They would never make her. They just have to be that is a total accept it moment. That is you just no believability, but there's just like, yeah, this is what happens. You're like, all right, you just smile and wave, boys, smile and wave.
Like I say, I don't imagine these are questions that can easily be answered, and I get the impression the writers either didn't consider them or just didn't give a shit in the first place, which is kind of an interesting way of making a $200 million movie. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
I mean, all I can say is that I feel like the little boy, when he grows up in the third film, he better be played by Aldous Hodge, because Aldous Hodge, given him and Black Adam, totally should have been in this movie as Black Panther. They should have waited a couple years and went with the original script instead of rewriting it. But that's I don't know. It's just so crazy. It's so crazy. I've seen this movie twice now, and as a whole, I have to say that it just wasn't that good, and I'm sorry that Chad passed, and it is unfortunate, but at the end of the day, anyone that went to see Black Panther for Black Panther, you didn't get Black Panther. You got grief and remembrance of someone who passed that you may not have even been that familiar with their work, but maybe now you will be, and maybe now you'll look into them more. But God forbid something happened where out of the blue something shitty that Chadwick did comes out, and then they try to cancel him, because they already tried to do that with Letitia, who played Shuri, because she was against the COVID stuff and all the mandated vaccine stuff, and now they're like praising her role, but at the same time they talked pretty mad shit and wanted her to be recasted, less than a year ago. So but it is what it is. So Black Panther 2 was kinda forever, but Wakanda forever.